Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In tonight's video, I'm going to be going over my latest build here, which is an 11.5-inch carbine. Technically pistol right now until I form one it and get it approved. But kind of going into this, anybody who's watched my videos before, I've got done a little bit of trial and error of different various lengths. I have a 10.3 Mark 18. I got a 12.5-inch, a 14.5-inch, a 16, and 18. I did always say I wanted an 11.5, and I do still want a classic A4. And then I feel like I've got a pretty good rounded collection of what I want. The 11.5, I was really kind of debating which type of build that I wanted to do. My 12.5, I do have an LPVO on that one. And my Mark 18, it's just iconic Mark 18. I didn't want something that was going to just replace that, and also not something that was going to duplicate what I got going on with the 12.5. So going into it, my initial thoughts were that I was going to do like a classic Blood Diamond type carbine. If anybody isn't familiar with the movie Blood Diamond or the carbine that Leonardo DiCaprio uses in the end of it, dropping a picture real quick. But very basic carbine. I don't know what the barrel length was in on it, but it was a shorty and it had that longer. It's not a flash hider. I can't remember exactly the name of it, but it was gonna be very basic. Round handguards, nothing fancy. Basically, just completely mil spec. No upgraded fancy forward control design parts or anything like that. So that was my initial idea going into it. I'd get, like I said, the round handguards on front. I'd find definitely I'd upgrade the light to some more traditional. I won't say traditional, more up to date scout light on it that I would mount onto the front side post, or maybe like a barrel clamp or something like that. And then I was going to be good to go. I rattle can the thing up and just kind of have it as a good gun, but nothing super fancy. That said, I did want to use I didn't want to just buy cheap parts. Really, initially, I wanted about a year ago, Big Tex Ordnance and a couple of other retailers were selling 11.5-inch front sight post LMT upper receiver. So complete, you got the barrel, you got the upper receiver, came assembled with the dust cover and the forward assist, had the delta ring and the front end cap on it. A buddy of mine got one. Looked really cool. That is initially I wanted to go buy. They have not been in stock for months and months and months. I do think it was just in a limited run, maybe on a contract or something like that. Couldn't find them anywhere. Next option that I was thinking down was maybe like a Centurion. Centurion does offer one also. I think they call it their FBI 11.5-inch clone or something like that. Don't have any pictures on their website, but that's another one that says it's gonna, it's out of stock perpetually. So next option I was going to be looking down was the BCM. BCM offers the same 11.5-inch version with front side post. Same problem. Couldn't find them in stock anywhere. And lastly, I was looking at maybe doing a Sons of Liberty Gunworks one. I didn't really want to use the Sons of Liberty Gunworks. Can't really put my finger on why. I definitely either want to stick with LMT first and foremost, and really one of the reasons for that is because I really wanted to use a Marzell lower. Being a left-hand shooter, having a full ambi receiver, lower receiver, definitely is very helpful. And I didn't want to mix and match brands. I mean, I don't normally have a big problem with that. I do it with other builds. Just wanted to kind of keep it a little bit more universal. So I thought, what am I going to do? Can't find any of the 11.5-inch factory built uppers. I thought, okay, well, maybe I will just hold out on a BCM, maybe hold out on a Centurion. And with Black Friday that came around, obviously there was a lot of good sales that were going on. And Rooftop Defense, they had a sale. I saw finally that they had the Marzell lower receivers seem to come and go, in stock and out of stock. One of the things that are a little bit more hard to find are the LMT forged uppers, just the stripped uppers. And the stripped uppers, they do come with the dust cover and the forward assist installed. So I saw that they were on sale. Do also have a discount code. If you go to Rooftop Defense, if you use ARFCOM, ARFCOM, or Pew Pew, it gives you about 8% off. So them having them in stock, I kind of thought, maybe that's a sign that I'll go ahead and do the LMT after all, and I'll just find a really good barrel, something to be suitable, and then I would go from there. Well, now the hunt came up for the barrel and which barrel that I would use. I do know I definitely wanted to use a heavier profile barrel because I wanted this to be just a blaster. Um, Started researching options around out there, and I kept coming across the Colt Commando. Now, the Commando series, it seems, at least from the research I've done, they called it a Colt Commando, and you could buy them in 11.5 inches, but there's various models that had various different barrel profiles to them, and the one that I ended up getting. And the one that I set my sights on was which commonly known as the FBI HRT. Now, the FBI HRT, it's a heavier profile than the government. If I could take off the handguard, I'd show you. I know you see the Delta ring here. It is a drop-in rail. It doesn't come off easily. I'll talk a little bit more so about that. But I'll also drop a picture of the profile of the barrel itself in here. Definitely suitable for doing blasting. I was able to find one. A lot of them were out of stock everywhere. Some of the places you can find them on like Charlie's Custom Clones. I mean, they're ridiculously expensive, like 450, 460 for the barrel and front sight post assembly, which included, I believe it included no, not the Delta ring, just the barrel nut and the end cap installed. Ended up finding one on ARFCOM's EE. Guy had a few of them, brand new, 378. The places that I was seeing that were out of stock that still listed the price on them, like Midway, that's about what they went for brand new. So, I mean, I went ahead and went for it, save shipping, save tax. It was a brand new barrel. So that was my bill. I had the baseline, I had the receivers, I had the barrel picked out. I already owned an LMT enhanced bolt carrier group, the fully enhanced one. One thing about the FBI HRT barrels, at least the 11.5, is they are known to be a little bit gassy. And for anybody who doesn't know, the LMT EBCG, that's really what it's made for. It's really made for M4 carbines, 14.5-inch government carbines. They had some other issues that were gassy. The enhanced carrier, it offers relief cuts on where you normally have full rails. Some people call them sand cuts on them. But more importantly, the cam path at which the bolt travels is cut a little bit differently, so it keeps it locked up sooner. So when you have a really gassy gun, you have the explosion of the gunpowder going off. It stays in the locked position for just a little bit longer to allow the pressures to come back down before the bolt unlocks and starts moving to the rear. So I figured that would be a good pairing for this. Since they did already have the EBCG laying around, along with an Aimpoint Comp ML3 that I bought on the used market that had a LaRue CCO cantilever mount. Picked it up for a great deal, $350 on the equipment exchange on ARFCOM. A couple little nicks in the anodizing, but it wasn't a big deal to me. Figured that was really going to give me the look that I wanted. Now, one thing that was a little bit different, the Blood Diamond carbine is a carry handle carbine that has an Aimpoint, whether it be a Comp M3 or a Pro, maybe even an M2, that's mounted on the carry handle. That was what I really wanted to go with, but after doing some of the research, I can't remember the name of the mount that was most prolific that mounted the carry handle or the Aimpoint onto the carry handle. But one of the things that I read over and over and over again is it really wasn't the most sturdy mount, but it was like good enough. I kind of decided at that point that I was going to just go ahead with a standard flat top upper receiver without the carry handle, and I was going to do a fixture sight. So initially it was going to be using the LaRue CCO and then using the LMT fixture sight. Anybody doesn't know, the fixture sights they're pretty damn pricey depending on where you get them from. Can be a little bit hard to find in stock. Missed out on a couple opportunities on the EE to get one for a decent price, but I had seen over the last couple months the ScalarWorks mount for the Aimpoint Pro / Comp M2 / Comp M3. I'm definitely a big fan of ScalarWorks mounts in particular, but I really love the way that it looks with the Aimpoint Comp ML3. Just thought it was super, super slick, and when I went on ScalarWorks website, to find out what optic height they sit at, which is 1.57, so roughly lower third. They had this picture of a carbine that was I think it was a 14.5, but it had the Knights Armament Raz M4 rail on there. Very basic, had this mount, had this rear sight on there, and I thought, man, that thing just looks sick. So revised my plan a little bit. Went ahead and sold off the LaRue mount, picked up the ScalarWorks, then went ahead and picked up the ScalarWorks fixed rear sight. So those are the two things that keep it from being looking a little bit more traditional. And then moving on to the handguard. So the Knights Armaments RAS M4s. Obviously now I was looking at a lot more money than the round handguards. But one of the things that I struggled with was finding the light mount. Plus, adding a vertical grip on there. I thought, okay, well, you know what? The RAS M4 is really cool. Let me go ahead and grab one of those. Problem is, can never find the dang things in stock. Plenty of used surplus out there. But those things are really kind of beat to crap. Really didn't want to buy that. I don't mind buying used, but I don't want things that are just looking like beat to crap. So exploring different options out there of what I wanted for a handguard for this, and I definitely wanted a quad. You know, what there is a few options out there for drop-ins. Troy has a drop-in, Midwest Industries, you know, Daniel Defense, and I'm sure there's Samsung. Samsung I think makes one. I didn't want to go kind of cheap though, and I know Troy makes solid stuff, and Midwest Industries does too. But for me, I finally ended up settling on the Daniel Defense Omega 7. Anybody who's not familiar with the Omega 7, even though it is a drop-in system, it is free float. And how they make that happen is obviously it's in two pieces. You have two pieces, and underneath the handguard, there are two screws that mount it in place, the upper half and the lower half in together. But as you can see here, it does not make any contact with the front handguard retainer. So it's not just being held in like a RAS M4. And the thing that really locks it up and makes it free float is right here, which I don't know how well you can see it on camera. You can see a screw here, and you can see a screw here, and you have one on both the upper and the lower on both sides. And as you screw those in and make painfully slow incremental tightening on it, what they do is they press against your barrel nut and really makes this thing absolutely rock solid, and then in turn makes this a free float system. So while, you know, I'm not running obviously any type of laser or PEC or anything on there that would be affected by this not being free float, you know, there is weight as you carry this thing and you're holding on to it and you're putting pressure onto the barrel. You know, it can affect accuracy. So I thought that was a really cool a handguard that I wanted to go with. Do love Daniel Defense rails. You know, I have my Mark 18 is a Daniel Defense and has the RIS 3 on it. Still maintains some of a bit of a traditional look on it. Picked up the Knights Armaments rail panels on it. Did have to trim down one of the covers here in order to free up the QD slot. You do have a QD slot under here and another one up front. But definitely great handguard. Use the Knights Armament vertical front grip on it, and I really think it's just a really, really cool look on there. Moving on to the weapon light, I did have some debate on what type of weapon light I was going to go with. Was thinking about going with another Cloud Defense Rain 3.0, but you know, one of the have had mod lights between OKWs, PLH V2s. Have a lot of Arisaka / Melkoffs with the E2 XTL heads on them. I have multiple Cloud Defense Rain 3.0s, and I've had 2.0s and 1.0s in the past. My first real high dollar weapon light was a Surefire M600 dual feel. Was disappointed with that. I mean, I did a video a while back talking the difference between lumens and candela. But the turbos came out, and the turbos came out with, I think it was 95 or 100,000 candela, and I haven't tried one of those yet. I also hadn't tried the 640 that has this swivel mount on here. And so I decided, hey, you know what? I am going to go ahead and try out the new Surefire M650 DFT. Definitely super impressed with the output on it. I did know that on this, I wanted to keep it simple and not use a pressure pad. And I wasn't, what I was wanting to do at first was to mount this upside down. So the flashlight ran more so towards the bottom of the barrel, and I'm left-handed, but see here, my thoughts is that if the flashlight was down here, I could activate it by using my thumb here. Of course, that meant I would have to hold the vertical foregrip like a dong, which I don't ever do. Use more of an overhand C, and the VFG really ends up acting more like a hand stop. So once I actually got the light and mounted it up, figured out that that really wasn't going to work so well, and that I would go ahead and mount it topside instead. I know, some people might be thinking, well, if you're left-handed, then why don't you have it mounted on the right side to activate it with your thumb? As you can see here, where I have the VFG, if I had the flashlight mounted on the right hand, I would have to really awkwardly reach to activate the button. Whereas here, my natural grip, I just kind of migrate my thumb over and I'm able to activate it. Now, one thing that I do not like is that I have to reach back like this. Not a huge deal, but does not feel as natural as I would like it to. So that being said, even though it comes with the Surefire mount on there that swivels so you can bring it up and down, Arisaka, they do make a mount that pushes it out a little bit further. So that's actually going to be here tomorrow. Ordered that one up. I was actually very surprised. It's coming from Idaho and it's shipped today. It's going to be here tomorrow. So very happy with that. But what that will do is push that forward enough. Any room forward at all is definitely going to be a help to make that feel a little bit more natural. Again, this isn't really a big deal. It's not super. I mean, I would normally be holding it like this and just moving my thumb over, but again, not the most natural, but definitely really like the Surefire M640 DFT. I'll probably end up doing a comparison video with the Cloud Defense. They're a little bit more comparative wise. Can't really compare it to the Malkoff because it's completely different output numbers. But overall package between getting the light, the body, the Z68 clicky tail cap, a Picatinny swivel mount along with an M-LOK swivel mount, and the Surefire 18650 battery. Pretty good deal. Midwest Optics, again using code LUMENS. I want to say that it brought it down to $299. So definitely very happy with my choice there. Going on to the lower parts for the receiver, I didn't change anything out. I never really changed anything out in the Marzell lowers. Obviously, the ambidextrous parts, there is nothing to change. And just to check, YouTube, please, not loaded. Forward Controls Design does now make one of their bowl catches to work with the Marzell. I haven't used it. I don't really feel a need to use it. But one thing I do usually change out is the safety and get one of the 45, 50, 55 degree safeties, whether it be Badger Ordnance, Forward Control Design. But again, I wanted to keep this one basic. So decided to keep the safety. When you buy a Marzell strip lower, it already comes with the bolt catch, the ambidextrous parts, and the safety. So really, for the price, not a bad deal at all. Obviously also comes with the magazine button on there. I did find on, I believe it was Titan Defense, they make a Marzell lower completion kit, which will give you the takedown pivot and takedown pin. It will give you the winter trigger guard along with the roll pin, along with the detents for the pins, give you the detents for the safety. Every small part you need to finish off the lower receiver, the buffer retainer spring. So pretty good deal. Going with the buffer tube, I do always like with my LMTs to use the LMT receiver extension, carbine. Wasn't going A5 on this one. It's got the distinctive gray color. For Castlenet, kept it very basic. LMT end plate, no QD swivel, LMT standard castle nut. Again, nothing fancy on that whatsoever. And for a charging handle, again, trying to be a little bit more traditional, even though this, isn't traditional. Me being a lefty, I definitely gotta have a ambi charging handle. LMT, they make this extended charging handle. Ambi charging handle that has these extended levers on each side. So went that route when it comes to my charging handle. Really like overall the way it looks. Moving on to the grip, anybody who's watched my previous videos, I do really like the B5 Systems Type 22. But the picture that I saw that gave me some of the inspiration to end up going the route I did on ScholarWorks website, they showed the Magpul K2. I do run a K2 on my Mark 18. Really like the way that looked. And since I actually got to see a picture representative, decided to go the K2 route on this one as well. Definitely a great grip. Shares a, I don't think the grip angle is steep as the P22, but feels very, very good. Took it out today to shoot it for the first time. One thing that I was a little bit unsure of, with the gassing, is the spring. So I right off the bat, I bought a Springco Blue spring, which is the extra power. It's like 15% stiffer than a standard carbine spring. And I bought an H2 buffer, but I also bought an H3 buffer. So taking it out today, when you have any new build, you're kind of anxious to see how well it's going to run. Between a combination of the gassing of the barrel, the BCG, and then the receiver extension. Started off using M193. I noticed, I was shooting from a prone position. I noticed that it was shooting up right about 3 o'clock. Not bad. And I know a lot of people, looking for the perfect ejection pattern is kind of going down a rabbit hole. Doesn't really matter so much. As long as your gun is cycling reliably, and then it locks back on an empty magazine, that's really some of the key things. So obviously, being able to tune it so it's a little softer shooting, along with being a little less violent, which causes less wear on your internal parts, that's a little bit more ideal. So again, that was with a Springco Blue and an H2 buffer. So I brought an H3 with me. So I went ahead and changed out the H3. And it changed the ejection pattern to like right at 4 o'clock. It was throwing them in a nice little, right to the right of me, about 3 feet away, right at 4 o'clock. And it was just piling up brass right in the same spot. So I figure that's about perfect with the system I have between the gas port size and the barrel. No issues running the EBCG. I know that sometimes people use them in the wrong application, but with this thing being a little bit gassy, it works very, very well. No issues whatsoever. Again, shot all M193. I did have some tooling. I meant to shoot some Tula 223 to see how well that would cycle, and I forgot about it, but I'm almost out of that ammo anyway, and it's all been banned from being imported, so you're probably not going to be able to see too much of that in the future. But shot M193, also shot some 77 grain open tip match, cycled well with absolutely everything. Obviously, having a Huxworks can, which I have the Huxworks flash hider on here. It doesn't change the operation of the gun whatsoever. The maybe a little bit more gas to the face, but hardly any. But as far as ejection pattern, having to change out buffers, you never have to do it, at least not on any of my guns. So worked 100% reliable, didn't have any issues, no failure feeds, failure to eject, any type of jams, any bit whatsoever. I want to say I probably put at least 200 rounds through this thing today, so I was very, very happy with its operation. Got the Aimpoint Comp ML3 zeroed in at 36 yards. Overall, just great gun. Anybody who's thinking about going with any of these parts whatsoever, that's why I kind of go into detail on each one of them. You may not be looking to build exactly this build, but maybe some components on it. But again, sharing my experience with it, definitely love this thing. And I think what I like about it most is how lightweight it is, even with the heavier SOCOM profile barrel, even having the Omega 7 rail, which it's pretty widely known that it is a very light quad rail, but this thing just feels so light and so handy in hand. Definitely my lightest AR comes in at 8.2 pounds with no magazine in it. I think my Mark 18 comes in at 9 pounds, a little over 9 pounds. Just feels so much lighter. Great gun though. I'm very happy with the way that it ended up coming out. And the last steps I'll have to do is to go Form 1 it and wait for the approval to come in. I almost forgot one of the most important parts, and that was the trigger. Choosing a trigger for this gun, originally I was going to go a little bit cheaper, something a little bit more closer to mil spec, but I wanted it to be a little bit lighter, better reset, maybe not as gritty. One of the first options that I was thinking about was a LaRue MBTS. I've said it before in previous videos. I typically for blasters, I like to use a single stage trigger. I do have several SSP triggers. So again, going with the LaRue, I was kind of like, nah, I really don't want a 2-stage trigger on this one. Wanted to try something a little bit different. So for this one, I ended up going with the Geisley S3G. Anybody who's not familiar with the S3G, Geisley does not recommend it for duty, for bench shooting, for combat, any of that type of stuff. It's designed, it actually stands for Super 3 gun. So it's designed for those competition shooters and Super 3 gun. It's a hybrid between a first stage and a second stage, and it has a super short reset. And it's you know, you kind of wonder, I know I did, what does he mean by a hybrid between a first stage and a second stage? So just very quick for any of you guys who don't know, when it comes to a first stage trigger, you'll have no slop. You have straight wall, and when you pull the trigger, there's either zero creep or no creep, and then the trigger breaks and the hammer falls. When you have a two-stage trigger, there's some slop, and typically, I mean, at least with the SSAE, you have around 2 pounds on the first stage, so that slop that you take up is 2 pounds, and once you hit that wall and pull through it, that's about another 2 pounds. So it's a total pull weight of about 4 pounds overall. With the SSP being a hybrid, so as you see, there is no slop whatsoever. So you notice there is a tiny little bit of creep, and when you pull the trigger, let's see if I can catch this on camera. You see a little bit of creep, and when the thing that's weird about this thing is there is no perceptible break. With both the SSP and the SSE, it definitely feels like a carrot breaking. You hit the wall, or you pull through the wall, or if it's a single stage right from the wall, you can feel definitely where the sear lets go. And with this trigger, the S3G, or if you want the straight bow version, it's the SD3G. There's a little bit of creep, and then all of a sudden it just breaks. And then the reset, break, reset, ridiculously short. And one of the things I had read about this is that people complain that they have accidentally let off double taps and triple taps due to is the way that the trigger breaks along with the super short reset. I did get a couple double taps today with it. It does also come with 2 different springs. So the spring that is already on it is a 4.5 pound break, and I want to say that if I remember correctly, the other spring will give you closer to a 3 pound, maybe it's 3.25, maybe it's even 3.5. I do put my trigger scale on this, and it is exactly 4.5 pounds. And after shooting it today, I think I am going to go ahead and try out the lighter trigger. But definitely very cool. May not be for everybody. You know, with this trigger in here, you know, on the forum, some people said they felt it was almost an unsafe trigger. Well, keep your finger off the trigger and out of the trigger guard till you're ready to fire, and it's not a problem. But again, I will admit though, like I mentioned, I did have a surprise double tap today, but I wasn't on target. So again, it's just there. Super short pull, super short reset. This thing is like a machine gun trigger. You can pull it so fast in semi-automatic mode. So definitely cool. I was happy with the choice. I'm going to switch the spring out to the lighter one and see what I think of that. So anyway, that about wraps up this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it and hope you could learn something from it. You know, if again, any of these products that you're looking for whatsoever, appreciate all the views and the likes and the subscriptions that I've been getting. Definitely appreciate all the feedback too, even some of the people who leave negative comments on there. It is definitely entertaining. So see you to the next video. Thank you.